All right, question from this week has to do with the issue of head coverings, and 1 Corinthians description of that in chapter 11, Paul's statement about women and head coverings, men and head coverings or not wearing head coverings, those kinds of things. The question was, well, what would happen if a lady at Matthew Road started coming to church with a head covering, say maybe like what you would see within an Islamic community or something like that. The answer to that, what would we do, or what if a man came wearing that kind of head covering, what would we do? The answer is really, it would depend on what's the motive behind this. For instance, we might have someone who grew up maybe in a Hindu background, or from India, or from some other culture, where an African culture or something like that, where covering the head or wearing a headdress is part of culture as much as it is a religious statement. In which case I would say we would probably, just with tolerance, not say a thing about that. We'd just move on. People are people, and we'd let them be themselves here, and that would be fine. If they feel more comfortable wearing a head covering because of the culture they're from or something like that, we wouldn't say anything. If someone said it's an absolute legal requirement that women wear this, and I'm wearing this, and the rest of you guys need to wear this, there we'd have a bigger issue, because now what we have is not a cultural thing, but a theological issue. We have someone who's, if they want to wear it, and they even want to wear it from a cultural, theological standpoint, if they are doing that just from their own personal, what they feel is the right thing, that would be one thing. But to say that and then hoist it on everyone else within the congregation, I would say, we as a church would say, okay, well, now wait, we've talked through the text, here's what we think the text is saying, and we don't want to hoist on other women, other men, cultural standards like that, as if they are mandatory on the congregation today. So we would show a great deal of grace and respect towards cultural differences. If someone came wearing cowboy boots, no one's going to say anything about that. Someone had a cowboy hat with them, no one's going to say much about that either, I hope. Just like if you have a kid that shows up with a baseball cap, because I know some like that. I don't know that we would say a lot about that either. I mean, if some adult said, hey, you should probably take your hat off when we pray, just out of respect, and or when you come into the worship center, maybe best if you take your hat off to a kid. Just show respect to those around you. That's one thing. But if there was a man who came in and he hadn't been to church much and just didn't know that that was our cultural standard, and he had a hat on, I hope nobody would say anything to him. So the answer is, as long as the person is doing it for cultural reasons, or even their own religious desire, as long as it wasn't hoisted on other people and created disunity within the church. That's what's going on in Corinth, is the disunity of the church due to some of these issues. And so if someone had a head covering on and it wasn't creating a great deal of disunity within the congregation, I doubt we'd say anything. I suspect a couple of Sundays into it, nobody would even notice. And even those who for the first time saw it would go, she's wearing a scarf, she's wearing a head covering, okay. However, if they are intentionally wearing an Islamic headdress for the purpose of they're Muslim, again, my guess is we would probably just graciously receive them, encourage them with the gospel, talk to them about Jesus Christ. And as long as they weren't hoisting that worldview on other people in the room, I would say to people, if they had a question about it, it's like, this person's Muslim by background, they're visiting our church to learn more about Jesus. So be real nice to them. I think that's probably the approach we would take. That's a good question, because we want to be careful about letting cultural issues become the prominent theological issues, or having theological issues drive culture so much so that it actually creates this unity. So as long as the unity of the church is preserved, as long as there's no great distractions within the congregation over it, I think we would live and let live a little bit on those kinds of issues. All right, thanks. We'll see you guys Sunday.